What's going on, my fellow degenerates? Passion here once again with another video with some Overwatch 2 gameplay. So today, I wanted to do a fun little kind of creative experiment, so to say. And I have used some AI tools to help me kind of visualize and conceptualize what a potential Overwatch movie trilogy might look like. Obviously, there's no chance really of this happening in real life, considering all the struggles that we've had to bring Overwatch lore back into the forefront of the game. So I don't see anything like this happening, but it's still fun to speculate, fun to think about what they could possibly do for an Overwatch movie. Now, obviously, the most ideal circumstance for an Overwatch movie would be to stick as closely as we could to the lore of the game, and also make it animated, right? Make it kind of like Blizzard used to do their cinematics back in the day. Bring all the original voice cast in, essentially, make it just a bigger and grander spectacle than the cinematics, essentially. And I think that would be the best foot forward in terms of making a Overwatch film or series of Overwatch films. But I didn't actually go that route with this because in that case, like I say, you just want to bring in the original voice cast and get as much people from Blizzard on it as you possibly could. And then there's like not much to speculate on, right? It's just follow the lore, use the same cast, there you go. But with this, I really wanted to speculate on how they could really adapt this universe into live action. So that is what I've done. I've set this up as a live action series of films. Don't worry, there are still some original voice cast in there. Because I figured that if we are going to do this live action, then basically all of the non-human characters that we have, all the Omnic characters, Winston, for example, as a non-human, they can retain their original voice actors because we're probably going to do them in CGI. So I had no problem with all these voice actors coming back to reprise their roles for the non-human characters. But when it came to the human characters, I didn't want to actually cast actual actors. I wanted to figure out who fit best and also craft a storyline that sticks as close to the lore as I could, but also leaves a little bit of room for creative freedom, a little bit of room for adapting this into its own kind of thing. So it sticks fairly close to the lore. I'd say probably about 95% it sticks to the lore, so don't worry about that. But I wanted to go over what I did here in this video, and ask you guys if you like it, if you have any of your own ideas for who should be in an Overwatch live action film, who should direct it, who should produce it, what the story should be. Let me know in the comments below. But without further ado, let's get started. So, starting out with the first film that I have here, just simply titled Overwatch. This is going to be set more in the initial first Omnic Crisis, right? This is going to be set with the original Overwatch strike team. So Act 1 would be obviously the Crisis, where the Omnics kind of rise up out of nowhere and rebel. You could even have like a cold open for this, where it's like, showing the peace and harmony that was brought about, the economic golden age for humanity, where Omnics were helping humanity all through this time, and then when the film really truly opens up and gets going, that's when you show that the Anubis AI kind of wakes up and starts churning out these Omnics and starts this war with humanity. And obviously from there you have the UN form the Overwatch Task Force, and then we meet the early squad. We have obviously Jack Morrison, Gabriel Reyes, Ana Amari, Reinhardt, Wilhelm, Torbjorn Lindholm, and Angela Ziegler. And early missions will show them, will show their like clashing personalities and skill sets, but also show how they save lives on the front lines. They are obviously then sent. We could show them across like different missions at first if we want, but they are sent to Cairo, obviously to stop the AI known as Anubis, which is threatening to launch even more waves of Omnics. So in Act 2, which is the Spark, as it says, the team infiltrates Cairo and discovers Anubis isn't just controlling Omnics, it's evolving. It is, and we could also show along this time that all of humanity's attempts to defeat the Omnics are for naught because the Omnics are so adaptable and they keep adapting to all of our military tactics, and they just can't be beat. And it also says here that we can see like a little bit of a friction between Morrison and Reyes starting to begin, where Reyes prefers kind of brutal efficiency while Jack values restraint and strategy, which I think is really cool. But through that, through the battles of the Omnic Crisis, global trust in the team grows. Overwatch becomes this symbol of hope. And near the end of the film, Anubis is finally defeated, but not without casualties. We can even at this point, we can kind of incorporate that whole Operation White Dome kind of thing. I know that was a thing that kind of came later. We could even kind of bleed in Operation White Dome into this final act against the Anubis AI, where it causes Torbjorn to lose his arm, right? And then Reinhardt asks to name Torbjorn's child as a gift for saving his life, essentially. So I think that'd be cool. And then after the Omnic Crisis is ended by Overwatch, back home, Jack Morrison's officially promoted to Strike Commander from the UN, with Reyes being sidelined and put instead of his covert division called Blackwatch. You can also show in this part where more heroes like Vivian Chase join, like Tracer and all that, Winston. Cities cheer, murals are painted, Overwatch becomes this worldwide peacekeeping force, and it ends kind of on a really good note, really big heroic kind of note. But in the end credits or post-credit scene, whatever you want to do for it, we would see in the shadows a hooded Omnic that would be Ramatra, watching the news of Overwatch's rise, and you would see him in the early stages of planning the attack on London that leads up to the King's Row uprising. So from there, for the second film, I have it called Overwatch Retribution. And obviously, like with the end credit scene or the post credit scene of the first movie, you'd see obviously Ramatra planning the King's Row uprising. That's how the second movie would start, is with the King's Row uprising. So we would see Tracer, Reinhardt, Mercy, and Torb trying to liberate London from the Null Sector cell. And although obviously the op is successful, it was unauthorized, and global leaders begin to question Overwatch's autonomy. So we could fast forward then to kind of Overwatch's peak, where we see like Genji and Cass kind of joining the team and everything. The public still believes in Overwatch, but the tension is growing beneath, and Reyes just is growing more and more resentful. We can maybe see him in some kind of Blackwatch meetings getting more frustrated at Morrison and like kind of lashing out to the rest of the Blackwatch team about stuff that Morrison is doing, because Morrison has become kind of like the face of the organization, and obviously Reyes, being the more seasoned veteran of like law enforcement and stuff, he feels that he should have been the one to be leading the team. And obviously with Reyes running Blackwatch, he obviously recruits Moira and Genji, and Cass, and all that, like I said. But then that goes into Act 2, which is the Fall of Trust, and Act 2 kind of kicks off with the Venice incident, aka Overwatch Retribution, like the old PvE mission that we used to play, where they seek out a Blackwatch seeks out a Talon financier without approval, and ultimately executes him instead of taking him in. And obviously the event leaks to the media, UN investigations begin, Overwatch is kind of like forced into a corner. From here I would have some kind of like flashback to the Shambali Temple, where you would see Zenyatta and Ramatra kind of talking about Omnic liberation, and maybe even you could have Takartha Mandata there as well, where Ramatra just gets more and more delusioned at the idea of humans and Omnics being able to live together, and so he leaves. And we could also show during this time him setting up a even bigger kind of attack, right? We could show him setting up more and more missions across the world, as well as him setting up a big attack coming in Paris. So obviously tensions within Overwatch rise as Reyes and Morrison argue. You could have Morrison kind of confronting Reyes in one scene about like why he assassinated, Viali and all that. With all this fighting, we'll see Genji leave Overwatch. And that all leads up to Act 3, which is the disaster at Watchpoint, where the Overwatch HQ is bombed. And both Reyes and Morrison are presumed dead. All the heroes kind of scatter, nations begin shutting down Overwatch, and the world kind of falls silent as Talon and Null Sector grow in the shadows. And I think the end credit scene for this movie could be showing Soldier 76 taking out that gang of smugglers in South America, where we kind of get the hints that, okay, so Jack Morrison's not dead, right? It's Soldier 76. And leading into the final film of this trilogy, I call it Overwatch New Blood, right? Because that's what the comics are called, talking about what happened after Overwatch fell and the rise of the second Omnic Crisis began. So it would start with Act 1 being essentially the recall, where we would see the events of the recall take place. And Winston fighting off Reaper, ultimately sending the distress signal to the rest of the Overwatch agents, reactivating them. We could also see in this opening act the whole thing of Moira saving Reaper and converting Reaper and everything. Then we would go to Route 66, where we would essentially get the reunion cinematic played out, where Cass and Ashe kind of duel each other over Echo's crate. And obviously Cass wins, wakes up Echo again, recruits Echo into the new blood of Overwatch. So then we'd obviously have Cassidy taking Ashe's hoverbike, set off to rebuild Overwatch, not by bringing back the old guard, but by finding new blood. Then moving on to Act 2, we'd have the new generation, where we'd see Cassidy going to recruit Pharah, Zarya, Baptiste, Lucio, and Diva into Overwatch, just kind of how he does in the Overwatch comics. And these new blood will kind of like train together. They'll bond. They'll forge their identities within Overwatch. and Cass will admit his past failures, and Echo will start kind of believing in her own leadership potential as well with the team. So that moves into Act 3, which is essentially 0 Hour. This would essentially be the 0 Hour cinematic, which was the reveal for Overwatch 2. As Ramattra launches a massive assault on Paris that nobody was prepared for, and everyone, all the police force is kind of just really overwhelmed. UN doesn't know what to do, but secretly you have Tracer, May, and Winston on a secret mission to kind of fight back against the Omnics, but they're outnumbered, and that's when Cassidy and the New Blood arrive. Now, in the comics, this is kind of where I would differ a little bit from the comics, is in the comics there's actually 2 separate attacks. There's one in Paris, and then there's one in South Korea, where in South Korea, that's where kind of the New Blood show up, and they kind of show up to help Diva fight back against the Omnic threat in South Korea. Meanwhile, where some of the older heroes are fighting in Paris. What I would do is get rid of that South Korea narrative and bring all the heroes in on Paris. So you get kind of this big Avengers-style kind of like epic battle in Paris, including all the legacy heroes from the old Overwatch, all the new heroes from the New Blood, all battling together. Even some heroes that were not involved initially in either conflict are there as well, including Reinhardt, Mercy, Ana, Genji, Hanzo, Brigitte, Sojourn, Torbjorn, Soldier, Zenyatta, all of them, right? Together there's going to be like 20 heroes fighting together in this seamless, coordinated assault to repel Ramattra's army. We could still end it the same way. We could still end it with the Tracer Pulse Bomb combined with May's Cryoblast. I think that would be quite nice, but it's gonna play out in a much bigger, grander, and longer scale. And obviously, it ends with Overwatch being kind of reborn, not as an institution, but more as an idea, with Winston kind of having this big press conference and telling everyone that basically Overwatch is back. And then just for a little bit of fun, the end credits of the final film would be showing Mars, and would be a young girl aborting a spaceship that turns out to be Juno. We get a little bit of a tease for Juno coming, in case there was ever another movie or like a spin-off thing or whatever. But I think that would be a cool way to kind of like do the whole trilogy and all that. So you may be asking, that's all well and good, sticks to the lore, but who do I have cast? Well, I tried to get as many things for casting here as I could. I may be missing some. If I am, I apologize. But here's what I have for casting, and I'll show you guys images on screen as well to kind of like help you visualize this, right? So for Jack Morrison / Soldier 76, I chose Chris Pine. He was in Star Trek 2009 through 2016, as well as Wonder Woman in 2017. For Gabriel Reyes / Reaper, I have Oscar Isaac from Moon Knight and Dune. Ana Amari, I have an actress I'm not familiar with, and I'm going to probably butcher the name, so I apologize. But her name is Shore Agdashlu. And she was in The Expanse from 2015 to 2022, and House of Sand and Fog in 2003. Moving on to Angela Ziegler / Mercy, we would have Jodie Comer from Killing Eve 2018 to 2022, and The Last Duel 2021. For Torbjorn Lindholm, initially it was going to give me a more Swedish actor, but I felt like dwarfism representation was so important, as something like Peter Dinklage has talked about a lot, is that there's not enough dwarfism representation, or not enough positive dwarfism representation in media. So I wanted to actually do that and actually have like an actual, dwarfism person in this role. I didn't want to choose Peter Dinklage because Peter Dinklage gets cast in fucking everything. So I chose Mark Pavanelli as Torbjorn, and he's from Water for Elephants from 2011 and Mad Dogs 2015 to 2016. Moving on to Reinhard Wilhelm, I have Thomas Kretschmann. He was in King Kong 2005 and Avengers Age of Ultron in 2015. Moving on to our Blackwatch operatives, we have playing Cassidy, we have the lovely Pedro Pascal. I'm sure everybody knows who that is, but he was in The Mandalorian from 2019 and The Last of Us 2023, as well as the new Fantastic Four movie that's coming out pretty soon. So happy to have Pedro Pascal on board in my fictitious Overwatch movie. Then for Moira O'Diran, we have Eva Green. She was in Penny Dreadful from 2014 to 2016 and Casino Royale from 2006. Then we have, for Genji Shimada, we have Makenyu Arata. He was in the Netflix adaptation of One Piece from 2023, as well as Rurouni Kenshin, The Final, in 2021. Moving on to Legacy Heroes, we have Tracer, Lena Oxton. And I love the one that we got for this. It's Florence Pugh from Black Widow 2021, like Thunderbolts from 2025, Midsummer 2019. We have for Mei-Ling Zhao, we have Zhao Lucy from Who Rules the World 2022 and Hidden Love 2023. For Hanzo Shimada, we have Hiroyuki Sanada from Mortal Kombat 2021 and The Last Samurai 2003. For Sojourn, aka Vivian Chase, we have Teyana Paris from WandaVision 2021 and The Marvels 2023. And for Brigitte Lindholm, we have Freya Allen from The Witcher 2019 and Baghead 2023. Moving on to some of the New Blood heroes. For Farah, aka Fariha Amari, we have Yasmin Al-Masri from Quantico 2015 to 2017 and Crossbones 2014. For Zarya, aka Alexandria Zaryanova, we have Ralitsa Stoyanova from The Outpost 2020 to 2021 and Letters from Antarctica 2019. For Baptiste, I love the one it picked for this, we got John Boyega from Star Wars The Force Awakens 2015 and Attack the Block 2011. For Lucio Correa de Santos, we have RJ Seiler from Me and Earl and the Dying Girl in 2015 and Power Rangers 2017. For Diva, aka Hana Song, we have Cho Yi-hyun from All of Us Are Dead 2022 and Ditto 2023. Moving on to some of the supporting and cameo characters, we have Echo, which is basically her official voice of Jeannie Bolette. Zenyatta is also his official voice actor, Feodor Chin. Ramatra, his official voice actor, Ramon Tikaram. Winston, his official voice actor, which is Crispin Freeman. And also Athena, her official voice actor is Cara Theobald. So all those official voice actors from the game are coming to do the movie in my fictitious movie here that I have going. For Ash, I have Riley Keno. She was from Daisy Jones and the Six 2023 and Mad Max Fury Road in 2015. We have a little bit of a cameo from Sombra, played by Isa Gonzalez from Baby Driver 2017 and Godzilla vs. Kong 2021. And another cameo from Widowmaker, which this is a French name, so I apologize if I fuck this up. Adelaide Exarchopoulos. I'm sorry if I butchered that fucking name. But that would be our actress for Widowmaker. She was in Blue is the Warmest Color 2013 and Passages 2023. So that's my cast list that I have. What about who's doing the directing, who's doing the story, and who's producing? So for the director, I picked Destin Daniel Cretton. He was the director of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. He did really well with ensemble storytelling, with cultural depth, grounded characters, and fantastical combat in that movie. So that's why he fits into this story for Overwatch. He balances humor, action, and heartfelt family drama, which is essential for Overwatch's tone. And he has experience with working within a franchise, but also giving it identity. So I think he's a great fit for the Overwatch movie. And when it comes to the writer for the Overwatch movie, who do I have? Well, there's nobody else. There's nobody else but Michael Chu, the lead Overwatch writer for the game. When you're doing stuff like this in a franchise, you want to bring the writers in who helped make that universe what it is, you know? So that's why I'm bringing Michael Chu in to write the Overwatch movie, which I think would be fantastic. He'd be able to stick to the lore very well and help make sure that that it gets told in a very, you know, true to his vision kind of way. And for the producer, the mainline producer anyway, you could have co-producers and stuff, but for the executive producer, I went with Deborah Snyder and her company, The Stone Quarry. So she has worked in ensemble projects before, like Zack Snyder's Justice League and Army of the Dead, is great with genre storytelling. She's focused on stylized world building and team dynamics in movies, so I think that she'd be a perfect fit for executive producer on this thing. You could also bring in other producers, such as Aaron Keller. You know, you could bring in some of the people from the game as well to be kind of like producers on the movie, and give their feedback. But that is all I have for this fictitious Overwatch movie trilogy. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And as always, remember guys, if you like the video, like. If you didn't even dislike, subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'm Passion, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace. Yeah.